Okay, in this video, I'm going to be looking back a little bit at the US Grand Prix from the weekend, but also looking into what Andrew Benson from the BBC had to say about it in his reports. Now, before I get into that, I just want to clarify something once again for those people that are relatively new to this channel. I didn't become a YouTuber for the sake of just having an online social media platform and to try and grow that and get subscribers and earn money from it. Far from it. Okay. The purpose of this channel is to expose corruption and to actually take some action to actually make a difference. Because we know those of you that are decent people that have subscribed to the channel, and that is at least 90 to 95% of people that are decent people and can see it for exactly what it is. We can see that what we are seeing is corrupt. We are seeing that the decision making of the FIA is completely corrupt. And just having a social media platform and saying this is corrupt, this is corrupt, this is wrong, isn't going to change anything. These people will not change themselves. They didn't change what was wrong with Abu Dhabi 2021, and all that we've seen ever since has been a continuation, a succession of things that are wrong. Now, we are aware that we're going to get that resistance in the comments section from the 5% to 10% of people that have come here specifically to try and contest the information that is being put out and to try to undermine it, to try and belittle it. That is who they are. They don't understand that the dynamics of this situation extrapolate to everything else in life that actually impacts every single one of us. And rather than focus on, hey, let's look at the bigger picture here, this notion of corruption taking place, that being the governing body, okay, and we can cross-reference that to a government of a country, okay, but in this situation with Formula One, it's the governing body of a sport is not applying laws, okay, not applying the rules of the sport, enabling one party to get away without penalty for wrongdoing. Okay, so again, we go to a country, a government of a country is allowing certain parties, certain individuals within the country to get away with breaking the laws of that country and enabling them to benefit and make billions of pounds. Well, that's corrupt. Well, that same thing is happening in Formula One. But those things are going on in our lives right now, both in Formula One and both in the countries that we live in. Now, that's a problem. And part of that problem is the contracted media for the sport isn't identifying the problem, and instead they're lying to us, and instead what they're doing, they are trying to validate what is going on, presenting it in a way where, oh, it's all confusing, nobody can work out the difference between right and wrong, and therefore it's just a debate, isn't it? It's just something for us all to keep arguing about in the comments section, but nothing will ultimately get done. That's not how you create harmony in society. If you seek to create harmony in any situation in life, what you do, you resolve a conflict. You identify what is going on, you identify the rights and wrongs of it, and you take action to make it okay. And that's not what is going on both in the sport of Formula One, and that isn't going on in our lives, is it? There are hundreds of things, thousands of things that are going wrong in this world, and what is being done about them? We're in the year 2024. Back in the 1990s, things were better than they are today. I can take the example of hospitals in the UK where I live. Back in the 1990s, if anything was wrong with any of us and we needed emergency medical attention, we could go to a hospital and get seen at accident and emergency within 4 hours. Now, if we go to a hospital and you go to accident and emergency, it can be 10 hours wait before you get properly seen. Why is that? Well, that's chronic underfunding of a public service, something that we are all taxed for to fund these services. And what will the media, rather than identify, well, there's corruption going on at governmental level where they are not funneling the country's resources into these things for the people. Instead, what they're doing, they're awarding contracts out to their chums, their friends, making their friends billionaires out of public money, and then they're not delivering on that, and there's no consequence for it. But don't you worry, move on, nothing you can do about it. And this affects our lives. So what I would suggest, okay, that there was just one example of hundreds that all of us could come up with about the level of corruption that's going on in this world. People standing by, seeing people get killed, seeing people's homes destroyed, and the rest of the world standing on and just going, yeah, that's unfortunate, isn't it? Well, yeah, it would be unfortunate if the rest of the world just stood by and did that if that was happening in your life. If that same thing was happening in your life and everybody else around the world was like, yeah, just glad that's not me. My life, I'm living my best life. Yeah, just glad that's not me. And as a global population, what are we doing? What are we doing in this world? Well, I'll tell you what some people are doing. They're sat at their keyboards now having a type away to try and discredit what it is I'm saying. You know, for them, this is all about defending their favourite, somebody who they idolise. Either that or they're being paid to come here to try and deter other people from coming here so that they'll read their comment and that will make people think that this isn't worth listening to. This is the nature of these things. But we have to overcome it. Okay, we have to overcome it. As people, we are all responsible for ourselves and for everybody else. Take responsibility in this world and have an impact. And what I mean by that is influence what it is you can influence. Don't accept what is wrong. Because this is what is going to happen. People are finally going to realise what is actually going on, how our lives are being manipulated, how the media are lying to us, and how that actually impacts our quality of life. And this is what inspired me to actually begin this channel. Abu Dhabi 2021. I mean, and this was like the straw that broke the camel's back, really. We've all lived our life and we've all suffered many injustices, every single one of us, and in our own different ways and for different reasons. Okay, and we've all probably seen things presented to us on the television that we think, well, that's not how things really are, but that's the way things are. But I saw Abu Dhabi 2021 and I knew that something was wrong. And then it was the media response to it that ultimately was the thing that tipped the scales for me. Because I saw that race and I knew that things were wrong and I knew why things were wrong. And nowhere in the media was it reported that way. Not a single media source could report the fact that in that race, they just separated out Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen to race off for a win. And you're not allowed to do that because every contestant in that competition matters. And therefore you can't block off third place from competing with those pair that were released off. You know, the third place competitor was held back by two cars. You can't do that, and therefore that invalidates what took place. You have to count that back to the end of lap 56, which was the last valid lap, because the rules of the sport were broken on lap 57. So that needs to be the declared result. Not a single form of media actually articulated that. Not a single one. So initially I was like, well, how can they all be missing out on that key point? That seems to be a really key, crucial point that everybody seems to be missing. So I contacted Sky Sports and I said, you seem to be missing out on this. Why is this? And they pretended that they were interested, and then they just ignored me. So I then thought, okay, I can prove now the fact that they've responded to me like this and are clearly in possession of this information and have ignored it, that they are corrupt, and therefore I'll go to another form of media, and another form of media will be only too pleased to be able to expose Sky as being corrupt, because as a rival media channel, then surely they want to get one over on the other one and expose that media channel isn't worth watching or listening to because they don't tell the truth. So when I went to the other media sources, what happened? Oh, they ignored me too. All forms of media are saying the same thing. That's a problem, isn't it? So it's situations like that which wake you up to the understanding that actually the media isn't there telling the truth. The media is there to just dish out a version of events that it wants you and me to believe, to accept, and to move on. To present, oh yeah, it was just that, but don't you worry, you little heads. Now move on. Or, oh, look at that. That's a problem for you, isn't it? That's a problem for you, isn't it? You keep focusing on that. That's a problem. But we won't tell you about this that's going on that's really fucking your life up, where these people are being allowed to make money that you're not going to know anything about. It's illegal, but you don't worry about that because you're not going to hear about that. No media does that, do they? Or they'll do it tentatively, or they'll present it in a way where, oh yeah, it might be all right, it might not. We're not sure. Let me know what you think. Or, yeah, that's really bad, but there's no mechanism for that. Nobody these days can understand the difference between what's right or what's wrong about this situation. What do we think? What does Maureen think about that? Does Maureen think that that's okay or not? Oh, what does Dave think? Does Dave think this is okay or not? How does this impact you, Maureen? How does this impact you, Dave? Oh, this is the media being balanced. Nobody can say this is categorically wrong, this is the law, this is a breach of the law. They are committing a crime which is benefiting them in this manner and disadvantaging you in this manner. Hence, that is why it is illegal, and that is why they need punishing in this manner. Media won't do that now. Why not? Why? Well, it's because media is owned. Media is owned by massive financial interests that's actually ultimately making the money out of the corruption. And therefore, they're not going to allow their media to expose that corruption because it impacts the massive financial interest financially. And this is the problem. Until that dynamic changes, it's always going to impact our lives. And so, as much as this channel is about Formula One, which it is, the key underlying dynamic is about corruption. So I saw that at Abu Dhabi 2021. I saw that media were lying to us, and I can expose it in such a simplistic manner where there is no argument. You know, I've made countless videos going into various different facets of what was taking place, and we get the trolls in the comment section want to troll each and every video and keep saying, yeah, but it was nothing like that. Yeah, but it was something else. Yeah, but what about? Every single comment is irrelevant from them. Because the truth is, the rules were broken. They're the purpose of the rules. And it's quite clear that everybody was complicit with breaking their rules. And nobody in the media can talk about the rules being broken in the manner that I have. Why not? Why not? So I don't care what it is you like. I don't care whether you want to try and say, well, something that I presented might not be 100% accurate in what I say, but most of it is pretty bang on. Okay, but I make the odd mistake. That's the way things are. I'm looking at a situation from being an outsider to it. I wasn't party to it. Like when the police investigate a crime, they will come up with a version of events which best represents what took place. They won't know exactly what happened. They weren't the murderer that perpetrated it. They weren't the person, the criminal that perpetrated that crime, that knew every minute and every second and every underlying motivation that was going on whilst that took place. But what they can do is come up with a representation of saying, well, clearly this is the evidence, these are the facts, this is what took place, and therefore this is likely to be the timeline and the sequence of events that took place, and this is what has taken place. And that's essentially what I'm attempting to do with this channel regarding Abu Dhabi 2021. And the purpose is, by doing that, we can actually get action to be taken, which is going to then change the situation. Just complaining about it, just being annoyed about it doesn't change it. Action needs to be taken, which is going to change it. And that's what this is about. So, just to, again, clarify, it started for me back when, after Abu Dhabi, it took until after I'd written to Sky Sports, after I'd then written to other forms of media, I realised that I was getting nowhere. And so I thought, well, I'll try social media. I'll try and make other people see what's going on via social media, in the hope that that could make a difference. I'd seen a program on the TV. It was about some bloke that had murdered somebody, and he'd started off by killing a cat. I think it was like the Cat Killer or something like that on Netflix or whatever it might have been. And it was ultimately the power of social media, where a group of people got together on social media and actually identified that he was a murderer. And it was the power of social media that ultimately got justice. Okay, ultimately tracked him down and ultimately got him arrested. So I thought, well, let's see if social media works in regard to Abu Dhabi 2021. But what happens is you write the truth, you get the trolls in the comment section that try to undermine it, and then ultimately social media is controlled as well. They want to quash the narrative. This page that I set up on Facebook, and you can see the date there, the 4th of February 2022 is when I began that. That built up a following of, it was 2.7 thousand followers at one point. It's now down to 2,600 followers. But I'll do a post now and I might get 15 reactions. So clearly whatever is being posted on this page doesn't get shown to the people that chose to follow it in the first instance. So it was then later on that year, so that was February 2022 that I did that. I then created my first YouTube video on the 3rd of December 2022. Didn't want to become a YouTuber. Don't have the same level of skill that some people have. But the YouTubers that I approached to try and get them to put forward the content that I was proposing wouldn't do it. So I had to do it myself. And if you go back to this video, you will see tracker view being used. You may not have seen that being used on YouTube before, but it clearly demonstrates what is going on. I was presenting information in a way whereby it clearly exposes what is wrong with the situation that other forms of media wouldn't do. The BBC will not show people this. Sky Sports will not show people this. Basic way of demonstrating that things are wrong, and they won't do it. I can do this by sitting at a laptop and demonstrating that things are wrong, and yet the media, with all the technology at their disposal and all of the size of audience that they can reach, they won't do it. Why not? That's a problem, isn't it? That's a problem. So what we have, and I've spoken about Andrew Benson numerous times. Andrew Benson is paid by the BBC. Now, the BBC, again, the British Broadcasting Corporation, funded by people in the UK having to pay for a TV licence, and that then pays for this broadcasting corporation to give us information, to inform us and give us an education in life, inform us about the things that are going on that are important in this world. And Andrew Benson has got a plum job for that company to report on what is going on in the sport of Formula One. The sport of Formula One has been corrupt at least and since 2021, and Andrew Benson has failed to report on the true nature of that corruption. Instead, what Andrew Benson has done is just parrot the narrative and fluff up Max Verstappen. Okay, he's just done what the sport wants the journalists reporting on the sport to do. That's not somebody that, if you've got a job working for the British Broadcasting Corporation, you should not be doing that. Okay, your role is to report the truth in an authentic manner. And Andrew Benson refuses to do that. He knows what the truth is. Okay, he cannot escape that truth. I've produced, there's a video that has got him as the title of it, and it's now got over 160,000 views. And you can't deny that you've not seen that, Andrew Benson, and the BBC, you cannot deny that you've not seen that. You have departments whereby you monitor things like this that are going on. You, the BBC, have banned me from commenting on your articles, on your content, because you don't like what it is. So you clearly know what it is that I'm saying about this, and you refuse to report it. And that demonstrates that you, the BBC, are entirely corrupt. Let's listen to let's have a look at what Andrew Benson had to say about the Grand Prix. So, Andrew Benson, the F1 correspondent in Austin, again, got a cushy number, a plum job as a journalist. Now, what's a journalist? A journalist is there to report on the situation by revealing the facts of the matter and giving us context. Okay, explaining that, because they should have experience and expertise in a manner where they can describe something to the people and explain the reality of it and the context of that, and that helps us with our understanding of a situation. So this is what Andrew Benson is doing. The title battle between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris erupted in controversy at the United States Grand Prix after the McLaren driver was penalised for passing his rival for third place off the track. The race was dominated by Ferrari's Charles Leclerc, who took the lead on the first lap after Norris and Verstappen ran wide at the first corner of the race. So, look at the way he has described that. There is ways of writing and describing a situation, and how does he do that? The first part is the McLaren driver was penalised for passing his rival off the track, right? So there's no description of the fact that Max Verstappen forced Lando Norris off the track there by not yielding. It's just, Lando passed him off the track. That is the initial description of what's going on there. Now, again, the strap-on fanboy that come here will just go, yes, that's okay to say that. No, it's not a fair reflection of the situation. Okay, you do not summarise. You do not summarise a situation just like that. You apply context. You don't just validate it by doing that, and by explaining it in that manner. It softens, it conditions people to be more accepting of that situation. The race was dominated by Ferrari's Charles Leclerc, who took the lead on the first lap after Norris and Verstappen ran wide at the first corner of the race. After Norris and Verstappen ran wide. What was going on there then? Did Verstappen run Norris off the track? Well, we can see the pictures of it. We can see that, I think it's even further down here. Let's just check these. We've got lots. So here, that one. Max Verstappen and Lando Norris, far right, go off track at the first corner, but the stewards did not investigate this incident. So after Verstappen and Norris ran wide, is that a fair description? No, it's not, is it? The car on the inside, what's he done? Has he left room for Lando Norris? Would Lando Norris be there unless he had to be there to avoid being hit by this driver that's here? That's the problem. That's the problem. Who is the aggressor? Who is the person that is doing something that is wrong? Well, this one here has put his car here. Where does this car go? If he doesn't put himself here, okay, then he gets hit. This car here, the one with Oracle on the back, is the problem. Andrew Benson can't identify that. Okay? No, he's paid to fluff this person. You have to leave Norris with at least at very least the room for these tyres here to be in contact with this white line so that he doesn't exceed the track limits. Now, he should be, the full car should be on the track. That's the way it should be, but the way that they determine track limits is as long as part of your tyre is on part of that line, you're deemed to be on track. Bit of a strange situation, but that's the way that they do it. But the position of Max Verstappen's car, is it possible for any part of Lando Norris's car, who is alongside of him going into that corner, right? Is it possible for any part of Norris's car to be in contact with that white line? No, it isn't. Therefore, this car here, with Oracle on the back, Max Verstappen, has forced this car to be off the track, because had he not have been off the track, there would have been a collision. That is bad driving. That is not acceptable in motorsport. That is against the rules of motorsport. Oh, but we don't penalise that on the first lap, they tell us. Is this like football, whereby in the first minute of a game, if you go in over the ball, like both legs, two-footed challenge, taking out somebody's knee, right, with an illegal challenge? Oh yeah, we don't penalise that in the first minute of the game. Is this just like the wet day in Belgium rules in Formula One, where the rules are different at a different stage? Again, the strap-on fanboys that come up here, ha, 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 this is a first lap incident. We know that they don't do that on a first lap incident. Well, who has conditioned you to accept that? That would be the government saying, we're not going to apply the rules on the first lap. Well, why wouldn't you? On the first lap, you can run the other driver off the track without penalty. Why would you do that? Oh, but sometimes they make you give a place back. So they do sometimes, don't they? They do apply the rules when they want to, but not at the times when they don't want to. Depends which driver's involved. Depends who they want to punish and who they don't want to punish, doesn't it? That picture there clearly demonstrates that the car that is on the red section there now, Max Verstappen, did not leave track room for the car on his outside. Therefore, you are guilty of running another driver off the track. Now, how come these drivers here behind managed to stay on the track? How come the Ferrari here, and there's another one on his inside, how come this is Ferrari here, which I believe is Sainz here, could be wrong, I think that's Sainz. Did he run Verstappen off the track, or is there room for Verstappen's tyres to be on the track? Well, he managed it. Okay, but Verstappen couldn't position his car in this sort of position and forced Norris off the track. Why is that? Well, that's because the line that Max Verstappen takes runs all the way across here to force his opponent out of track room. That is Max Verstappen's standard operating procedure when he's driving a car, and that is not allowed in this sport, but people have been conditioned to believe that that's okay because the governing body, the government, has allowed him to do it. They've said, yes, we'll allow Max to do that. That will excite the kiddies. That will mean that Max has got a chance of winning, and we want Max to do well. This is the problem. When you have a competitor that is allowed to get away with clear breaking of the rules, that's a problem. That's going to annoy a lot of people. But we can't do anything about that because the governing body will say, oh no, we're the sole governing body in the world that's allowed to make decisions about Formula One, and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, Abu Dhabi 2021, there was something that you did which actually breached international law, and that's what's going to be done about it. And you don't get to rule on whether you've broken that rule or not, that law or not, okay? You don't get to decide whether or not you're criminals or not, because you're accountable to law. And that's the difference, okay? You're not going to be your own judges about that. And that is going to be your downfall, the FIA. That's what's going to obliterate you and wipe you out and every corrupt fucker that works for you. That is what's going to happen, because that's what needs to happen in order for the sport of Formula One to be returned to being any form of respectable sport. Until that happens, then we are just going to be watching a shit show. Those of you that have the opinion, I can't wait until next year when Lewis finally leaves Mercedes, because we know that they're sabotaging him as well, and he'll get his chance at Ferrari to show the world what he's capable of. You're still going to be up against this dynamic. The FIA, the governing body of the sport, is still going to be enabling Max Verstappen by allowing Max Verstappen to break the rules of the sport, by allowing Red Bull to continue cheating with cheat devices on its car that it will just allow to continue competing with, and without removing all the points that they've gained by using those cheat devices on the car. So the chance of overcoming that in a fair sporting contest, well, it's never going to be a fair sporting contest. So don't run away with the idea that things are going to change next year. Until the FIA is completely eradicated and the corrupt entities within are held accountable for their actions, exposed to the world for the corrupt bastards that they actually are, then nothing is going to change in the sport of Formula One. It's going to continue to be corrupt, and the media that is presenting it will continue presenting it in a corrupt manner. Don't think that it's going to change unless this changes, and that's why something needs to be done drastically, and that's what's going to be done ultimately through the action taken by me and this channel, and there are others that will be joining in with this action. So we'll go back to what Benson was saying. So Norris finished third after passing Verstappen around the outside at turn 12 with 4 laps to go, only to run off the track on the exit of the corner. Again, look at the way that this is written. Norris finished third after passing Verstappen around the outside, only to run off the track. Well, why did he run off the track? Once again, Max Verstappen, rather than yield, okay, the rules of engagement of the sport, okay, if the other car is ahead of you going into the braking zone of the corner, they've got an entitlement to be there, okay, they're allowed to be there. You have to afford that car track room. What did Max Verstappen do? He ran all the way over to the other side of the track and off the track himself, so that Max Verstappen left the track. And had Lando Norris attempted to remain on track, because you can't just put the brakes on and do an emergency stop to avoid the accident, that momentum is going to keep you going, and so you have to steer out of that way of that car that's careering towards the path that you need to be on. You have to steer out of the way of that, and that meant that Lando Norris had to be off track. What does Andrew Benson say? Andrew Benson says, only to run off the track. This is Andrew Deep Throat Benson. That's the best that this British journalist can do. Norris chose not to give the place back, whilst Verstappen complained he had to. So, Andrew will put forward Verstappen's case, won't he? Verstappen complained that Lando has to give that place back. He has to give that place back. No, Max. No. Stop gaslighting the world. Stop lying to the world about the situation, lying about the true nature of this. You have just committed offence by crowding another car off the track and leaving the track in doing so. That is filthy. That's dangerous driving, and you should be black flagged for that. Norris, right? They handed Norris a 5-second penalty, and as he had pulled out only a 4.1 second lead once in front, he was dropped back to fourth place, one behind the Red Bull driver in the results. So Andrew, all he can do is just say, "Oh, this happened, but in a way whereby he doesn't explain what really happened. They'll just go, "Oh, Lando went off the track." Well, why did Lando go off the track? They gave Lando a 5-second penalty. Should he have gotten that? Tell us, Andrew, should he have gotten that? You know, this isn't journalism. All this is doing is a presentation of partially what happened to minimise the blame on Max Verstappen, to minimise what's really being reported in terms of the corruption of the FIA, and to make people believe things to be a certain way when that's not the true dynamics of the situation. This is the best that the BBC can offer in terms of reporting on the sport of Formula One, and they banned me from commenting on their content. Strange that, isn't it? Strange that. Verstappen has therefore extended his Drivers' Championship lead to 57 points with 5 races to go. Well, there you go, Andrew. You'd like to tell us about Verstappen extending his lead? Okay. Engrossing battle between title rivals ends in controversy. Again, we like the titles, and he'll give us the quotes as well. The race was bookended by 2 incidents between the title rivals at the start and in the closing stages at the Circuit of the Americas. At the first corner, Norris, who was on pole, appeared to have covered the inside line, but Verstappen went for it anyway, and the 2 drivers ran off the track on the exit. The 2 drivers ran off the track, did they, Andrew? Lando, if Max Verstappen hadn't have been there, would Lando have most likely been able to stay on the track? Why was the reason that Lando Norris ran off the track, Andrew? And I've showed you the picture already. Was it that had he have attempted to remain on track, the other car would have careered into him and crashed them both out? That's a problem. Okay? That's a problem. Why can't you articulate that? Why can't you not explain the dynamics of what is actually going on to the person that's reading this, Andrew Benson? People might not have watched the Grand Prix with their own eyes, and they might just rely on your report to try and get an understanding for what was actually taking place. And how are you explaining this, Andrew? You are saying that Verstappen went for it anyway, and the 2 drivers ran off track on the exit. No, Verstappen forced him off the track by driving all the way. You've got a corner to go round, and what you do? Oh, you have to hug the apex. So if you're hugging the apex to a corner, then you've got the rest of the width of the track on the outside, right? But Verstappen doesn't do that, does he? He drives all the way across that track and off the other side of the track. Where does that leave you to go? Oh, well, that means you have to go as well. Otherwise, there's a collision. Oh, because that's what Max Verstappen does. That's a problem. But you don't identify that, do you, Andrew? You don't identify that in this sport, there's somebody that drives in that manner that's not acceptable, gets away with it, nothing's done. And this is the guy that's now going to be a 4-time world champion and been doing that for 4 years and allowed to do that for 4 years. And it's not allowed. But you can't do that. You can't expose that, can you, Andrew? Their battle allowed Leclerc to slip by into the lead, and once there, he was in total control of the race. He quickly extended his advantage, and it soon became clear the Ferrari driver would dominate unless something went wrong. So, Leclerc was 10 seconds in the lead by the time Verstappen, in second place, made his first pit stop on lap 25. Ferrari pulled him in a lap later and he controlled the race to the end. Sainz ran third in the first stint and briefly challenged Verstappen on the first lap, and Ferrari chose to use the undercut on Red Bull. So again, look at this. Sainz briefly challenged Verstappen on the first lap. Okay, so what paid to that? Did Sainz look like he was in with a chance of passing Verstappen? Was it just on the first lap, or what prevented him that? Oh, would that be Lewis Hamilton spinning out, okay, and a safety car situation, then altering the dynamics of Sainz then being able to challenge Verstappen in those early stages that he otherwise was? But, you know, you're just saying, oh, he only briefly was able to challenge Verstappen. Again, this is the way that, this is the use of words to put a slant on a situation is what Benson is the master of. And all he does, he literally is Max Verstappen's fluffer, okay? Max Verstappen's fluffer keeps the star of the show aroused for their performance, and that is Andrew Benson's role. Okay, that's what you are. That is your legacy, Andrew Benson. That is what you are going to be aware of in your life. That's what you've utilised your life to be. The Max Verstappen fluffer. Okay, well done you. Well done. You're an incredible chap. Well done, Andrew Benson. Sainz pitted on lap 21, so by the time Verstappen stopped for new tyres on the Ferrari, had gained the Spaniard. Sainz pitted on lap 21, so by the time Verstappen stopped, the new tyres on the Ferrari had gained the Spaniard enough time that the Red Bull came out behind. Oh, it was only the tyres that paid for Max there, because Super Max is so good. It just got unfortunate about because only Sainz's tyres made it possible for Sainz. Verstappen was unable to do anything about Sainz and had to turn his sights to Norris. He and teammate Oscar Piastri had a quiet first stint, running in 4th and 5th places, lacking the pace of the Ferraris and Red Bull in front of them. Yeah, but Formula One's a marathon, not a sprint, isn't it? Yeah, you set your car up to perform 200 odd miles. Yeah, not just 3. Yeah, it's not all about that. It's about who can bring that car home over the full race distance. Yeah, it's all about that, isn't it? But McLaren ran their drivers long to give them a tyre advantage in the second stint. Norris stopped 6 laps after Verstappen and was 6.6 seconds behind when he returned to the track. He was on the Red Bull's tail just over 10 laps later, and the two set about an engrossing battle over the next 10 laps. Norris tracked Verstappen closely, and a number of times the two ran side by side through some of the corners of the complex after turn 12, the tight corner at the end of the long back straight. But Verstappen positioned his car with expertise to prevent Norris from being able to make a move at the hairpin at turn 15. You like that one, don't you, Andrew? Verstappen positioned his car with expertise. That will get you some of Verstappen's special sauce, Andrew. That will get you some of his special sauce. So you'll enjoy that one. On lap 52, Norris was closer than ever, coming onto the back straight, and he went for the outside as Verstappen defended the inside line. Both cars ran off the track, Norris considerably, and the McLaren emerged ahead. Talk us through the rules of engagement, Andrew. Talk us through what took place there. What was going on? You've got a car that's on the attack, and he's got himself ahead of the car that he's trying to overtake, entering the braking zone to a corner, meaning the car on the inside has to yield, has to leave the attacking car track room, both on corner entry and exit, because that's earned the right to be there. And what's he not done? He's ran him out of room on exit. So much so that he also himself has driven off the track. Well, that's a penalty of crowding the other car off the track. Done so in a dangerous manner. But no, Andrew can't say that. Andrew can only say both cars ran off the track. Norris considerably. And the McLaren emerged ahead. Verstappen immediately complained Norris had overtaken by going off the track and should give the place back. So again, what we have here is the typical behaviour of a narcissistic abuser. Okay, the aggressor presenting themselves as a victim, the perpetrator of a situation claiming that they are being victimized by the situation. Oh, he's done something wrong there. He's got to give that place back. He's got to give that place back. No, you've just done something that's worthy of a black flag. You've done a knee-height two-footed challenge at football and claimed that it was the other guy's fault. You're claiming that that should be a penalty to you. That's Max Verstappen. That's why I have absolutely zero respect for Max Verstappen, because he's done this on countless occasions. He's an absolutely atrocious human being, and one that the media is boosting. What kind of values does that actually put forward as being societal values? And what that's going to do, that's going to produce a fractured society. If you want to create harmony in this world, you have to ensure that people that behave in that manner, that there's got to be measures in place that deter them from doing so, or there's consequence for them doing so. But no, this kind of conduct is enabled, and it's a kind of conduct of a billionaire. The reason that a billionaire is because a billionaire doesn't care about people. They don't care about others. They care solely about themselves, their wealth, their status, and they're quite happy to fuck everybody else in their self-serving agenda. Max Verstappen is quite happy to fuck everybody else in pursuit of his self-serving agenda. And the media is just fulfilling that. And the billionaires that are willing to fuck everybody in their self-serving agenda, they fund the media and pay the media to report about things in a way that they want them reported in. And what kind of values is that putting through and filtering through to society? Well, we can see it even in the comments section to this channel. We've got the strap-on fanboy. Now, again, how many of them are real individuals? How many of them are children that just idolize a person without having any concept of what are real values? These are damaged individuals. Some of them will be bots. Some will be AI bots that are just, again, producing comments to deter people from the channel. Some are paid trolls. Some are just damaged individuals. This is how they get off in life. What's caused that damage to them? Who knows? Last picked up kickball, late night sneaky uncle. Who knows what damage these individuals have suffered in life? But sadly, they are likely to be perpetrators in their own right. They are likely to be abusers. What kind of relationships do they have in their home life? Who knows? Who knows? But probably not healthy ones. If they get off on subscribing to social media channels for the sole purpose of going there to make countless comments on the content that is being produced, just purposefully to seek to undermine it, there's a problem there. I would suggest that if you've got something to say in this world, then use your own platform to say it. Don't spend your time just trolling another platform just to try and undermine that platform. I would overcome that platform by creating your own and getting your message out. That'd be the way to do things, which is why I'm trying to do it this way. You don't see me going trolling everywhere. What you'll see me is contesting the likes of Benson. That's not trolling. That's saying this is the truth and here's the evidence of the truth, and this is the evidence of the truth that I have produced that you failed to report because you are corrupt. If you're trolling this channel, how about what you do? You go and evidence what it is you've got to say. You produce that and you demonstrate that with your conduct, okay? And you say, this is the reality of the situation. This is the content that I produce, evidencing the reality of the situation. But none of you will you? You're all damaged. You're quite happy to come here. You're quite happy to throw your hatred around. You're quite happy to throw your abuse around, to come here to abuse me and abuse the people that are the good people of this channel, because you are abusers, okay? And you don't have the wherewithal, you don't have the gumption, you don't have anything about you to actually do something that's actually worthwhile, that's going to make a positive impact in this world. That's who you are. This channel, me, ultimately would like to help assist towards a more harmonious world. And we've got people here that seem to think that due to their comments in the comment section, will want to project me as being projecting hate. Now, there's no point in me deleting these people, because all they do is they reincarnate themselves as a different user. Hey, Dolph, still seeking the truth, are you, Dolph? We'll be back for that one at some point. We'll be back with that one at some point. Anyway, so Norris decided to press on, arguing to his team that he had been ahead at the where are we? Apex. But the stewards disagreed, and Norris was given a 5-second penalty just before the end of the race. Although he had pulled away, he had not quite done enough to negate the penalty. So the stewards disagreed. So you've not exposed that the stewards are corrupt and haven't actually applied their decision making in accordance with what would constitute the rules of engagement of this sport. They've not in any way identified the fact that Max Verstappen drove Lando Norris off the track and had Lando Norris, who was he was ahead in the braking zone, okay, entitled to be left track space, and been ran off the track. And therefore, it is Max Verstappen who is the guilty party there. But no, the FIA never penalised Max Verstappen. Often what you'll see when there's an incident involving Max Verstappen, the stewards won't make the decision. They'll go, oh, the stewards will look at that after the event, and then they'll invite Red Bull to come and present their case. Oh, and then they'll write a nice little story about it, and then they'll decide that it was a racing innocent. Oh, it was a 50-50. It wasn't Max's fault. But here, no, it was Lando's fault. We'll soon jump to that, so that straight away, before the race ends, we'll tell you that Lando's got the 5-second penalty, not wait till the podium and then impose the 5-second penalty. Funny that, isn't it? The stewards disagreed. But again, the way that Benson writes about it, and because Norris hadn't pulled away enough, that was the problem. That's not the problem, is it? It's not the problem about not pulling out a 5-second margin. The problem is that you gave Norris, the person that was taking evasive action from being ran into by a car that ran him off the track by driving off the track themselves with dangerous driving. Okay, and the penalties are there for dangerous driving and for crowding another car off the track. No penalties for that, but penalise the guy saying, oh yeah, he performed the overtake off the track. No, he'd already overtaken him on the entry to the corner. Oh, dear me. Asked whether he should have given the place back. He said maybe that was my one and only chance. And maybe it was his one and only chance. Piastri took 5th, while George Russell saved Mercedes blushes after a difficult weekend by recovering to 6th place and starting from the pit lane because of a crash in qualifying. Teammate Lewis Hamilton crashed on the second lap. I've never spun, especially on the second lap, he said. It's devastating to not be in the race because I love this race. So what Andrew's done there is talk about George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. Now, Lewis Hamilton is the British, remember this is the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. Lewis Hamilton is the British record-breaking driver within this global sport. Okay, it's a global sport where Britain can say it has the best in the world at something, and that's something that is quite rare. We don't have, as a country, the very best of something in the world. Often there's somebody from a different country, like in tennis, for example. Nadal is Spanish, Federer was Swiss, um, Djokovic, what's him, Serbian. They're the best in the world. It wasn't Andy Murray. Andy Murray never was the best in the world at it. Okay? You know, he was decent, fair play, he got to a certain level with it. But them three guys were always better than him. Occasionally we do get some sportsmen that are the best in the world. Lewis Hamilton is the best in the world at that. He holds the records. He was cheated by the sport. Why aren't you identifying something about that? You just say, oh yeah, Lewis span at turn 2. Sorry, on the second lap. Why if he doesn't spin, and this is his 350 something Grand Prix, what could be the problem, Andrew? Can you share your valuable insight and give us a bit of context to that, Andrew? Can you do that? I mean, can you say this is the Mercedes car, perhaps, that Hamilton's clearly struggling with the handling of that car? Were you able to do that? Were you able to say about, oh, well, the car didn't even have the pace for qualifying, and this is the man that's got the record number of pole positions? But no, you're quite happy just to leave it there, aren't you? Quite just leave it to say, yeah, Hamilton crashed on the second lap. And then just a quote. Is that explaining? Is that actually, what does that do, Andrew? Does that make people think that Lewis is shit? Is that what you intended, is it, Andrew? Is that what you're being paid to do? Try and make it out that Lewis Hamilton, the record-breaking 8-time world champion, winner of 105 plus Grand Prix, pole position sitter on 104, 105 times, you know, the best that the sport has ever seen. Are you paid to make out that he's now shit? And Verstappen is, Verstappen. Oh, keep careful, Andrew, careful. And I know you've got your mouth full. What's next? The middle part of this triple header of the Americas takes us to Mexico City next weekend. This will be a standard F1 weekend with 3 practice sessions before qualifying and Sunday's race. After that, it will be Brazil and another sprint weekend. And then we've got some pictures. Picture of Lewis there in the gravel. Now, again, comment section. Join the conversation. You are signed in. The pundit, that's me, right? You're stopped from commentating on BBC products. So they're now products from the BBC. Propaganda articles. BBC propaganda articles written by Andrew Benson. Okay. We should have learned about what the damage propaganda does. Those of us that studied a little bit of history in secondary school, when we were taught about the Second World War, the rise of evil and how that evil perpetrated its heinous acts on societies, and how it used propaganda, how it used media to condition people's minds, to get people to believe things to be a certain way, and how that then can result in atrocities. We should have learnt about propaganda and these absolute, I would love to say the word, but I'm trying to be clean, Charlie Uniform November tangos like Andrew Benson that just perpetrate propaganda to condition people's minds. Andrew, there will be a consequence. One day I'm going to meet you face to face, Andrew. I'm going to meet you one day face to face, Andrew, and I look forward to the day. There's going to be consequences for you, Andrew Benson. Look at this. Comments. 1,635 comments. Now, that would suggest that there's quite a lot of people passionate about what they're seeing here. FIA have turned sport into a pantomime yet again, deciding who they want to win and engineering it. If you push someone off the track twice, second time, to the extent you're off too, then you should be penalised, not your opponent. Norris was off to avoid a collision. Max off to put stop his opponent. Crass. That's the highest rated comment, or it was at the time I loaded this. 866 people agree with that. And you've got 187 strap-on fanboys who don't like that. The strap-on fanboy, okay? You are in the minority of see you next Tuesdays, okay? Yes, you like what you like, but most decent folk recognise the truth, okay? You are in the minority. In this world, we are in a society whereby all shapes and sizes of society, all different people, all different characters. But what is encouraging is that probably in the region of 9 out of 10 people are at heart reasonable people. Will treat other people how themselves would like to be treated. But that 1 in 10 is a see you next Tuesday, okay? A proper see you next Tuesday, right? And that is the strap-on fanboy, okay? Strap-on fanboy, that is what you are. You are that person. And you're here and you'll make your comments and you won't, that's what drives you. Andrew Benson, right? You serve them see you next Tuesdays, don't you, Andrew? You write your articles to excite them, don't you, Andrew? Excite them and incite the decent people. That's what media is doing for clicks. Oh, it's all part of your products, isn't it, Andrew? Yeah, that I'm not allowed to comment on your product because you don't like reality, you don't like the truth because that doesn't fit with the narrative that you're parroting. Now, as the BBC, surely somebody should be monitoring Andrew Benson's content, reading his articles and saying, is this hitting the mark? Is this giving an accurate representation of what took place? And why are the people that are viewing this content outraged by it? And why are they then making comments such as this, saying that this sport is corrupt? And yet our chief correspondent, Andrew Benson, can't write about that, can't identify that in his writings of this sport. Why is that? The BBC, as an entity, can't do that. Now, if you're in charge of a company and some of your employees are failing to produce what it is that they need to produce, then surely you'd do an investigation. If you're the head teacher of a school and one of the classes of kids weren't achieving the same results as their peers, you might have a year group of kids, 200 kids in a year group, and across that cross section, obviously everyone's got different abilities, but let's say they're not streamed into different ability sets, and all you've got is say 8 forms of kids, and all of them kids, they've got a normal distribution within them, each of them 8 classes of achievement, and one of them classes across the board, on average, they're lower performing than each of the other 8 groups. You'd look at the teaching that them kids are getting, wouldn't you? You say, is that teacher up to standard? Are they actually giving the right information to them kids? If you are responsible for the media outlet, the BBC, surely you'd be monitoring the products that you're putting out there, the content that you're informing people with, and then seeing people's response to that, with this age of interacting with your population, that is your consumer, that's receiving this information, and assessing their knowledge and assessing what it is that they're saying as the feedback to the information that they're being presented with, and then perhaps cross-referencing that to what's actually going on and determining whether it is your employee is giving an accurate representation of what's really going on, or whether he's actually parroting narrative, and why he'd be doing that, and therefore is he corrupt. But the BBC itself is corrupt. It's all part of the problem. It's all part of the problem, and it's not going to change by itself. This is why good people have to do something about it. Right? We have to do something about it, and that is not accepting it and demanding that the right thing is done. That's what I'm going to do. Over the course of the next month or two, I hope. The thing is, in life, we've all got lots of things going on, and we have to deal with things in the order that they come up at. And so far, I'm being delayed from taking the action that I would like to take due to other things that are currently going on in my life. But hopefully, they will come to a conclusion at some point in the not too distant future that will free up the time for me to be able to take the action that I need to take. As I may have said before, it's not necessarily a bad thing because over the course of time, these, well, which are perceived to be delays, because they have delayed me. Don't get me wrong, they have delayed me, but it has enabled me to be able to view things, and other things that I'd not previously seen have emerged, which have actually made the case stronger or enabled me to see things clearer. Things such as Mercedes' actual true level of involvement in this. You know, Mercedes were painted as victims, and really they were complicit with it all. So again, when the case does get brought against the entire entity, then Mercedes are just as culpable as everybody else. But more to come on this as we go through. More evidence to come on Abu Dhabi 2021. Please understand these dynamics. Okay, we can rant about this decision making by the FIA that we know are corrupt, the rights and wrongs of it. We know there's no point in discussing what's right and what's wrong. We know that it's wrong. We know that they'll pretend, all the forms of media will pretend, oh, you tell me what's right or wrong. Was Norris in the right or wrong? Was Verstappen in the right? It's not about that. It's clearly that Verstappen has ran him off the track. That's the offence. Had Norris have attempted to remain on the track, he would have been crashed into by Verstappen. Verstappen is the problem. That's the person that you get the penalty that applies the penalty to. You know, on a football field, if a player lunges in dangerously, right, 2-footed, knee height, out of control, sprints across, launches himself off the ground, aims at somebody's knee, right, is a player jumping out of the way at that the fault? Is the player jumping out of the way of it the one that's at fault, or is the guy that's steamed into the challenge attempting to take the guy out at the knee? Is he the problem? Well, it's the guy that steamed across trying to take him out at the knee. He's the problem, and he's the one that gets sent off, isn't he? Oh, but no, but Norris went off the track. Both cars went off the track, so we'll penalise Norris. That's all that Andrew Benson can say about it, isn't it? So, I know this is a bit of a different one, but, we've got to talk about these different things in different ways. And different people resonate when I speak about things in different ways. So, that's why this video is slightly different. I'm going to go through some of the FIA documents. I'm going to go through some examples using some actual pictures and draw some lines on some tracks as to when Max Verstappen is at fault and when Lewis Hamilton's at fault. The kind of lines where Max will drive a car off the track and no further action required, and yet Lewis Hamilton hadn't even reached a corner at Silverstone 2021, and everybody's describing him as nearly killing Max. Whereas Max will drive off the other side of the track and ensure the other car's driven off the track, unless otherwise there'll be a crash. And Max is fine, that's not a problem, but before Max cuts across Lewis before they get to a corner and Lewis nearly kills somebody. Now, there's a problem there. Somebody's perpetrating abuse by trying to gaslight the situation and be the abuser and gaslight the victim into them being the problem. That's the conduct of a narcissistic abuser. Now, where'd you get that from? Well, you get that from Christian Horner. You get that from Jonathan Wheatley. You get that from Adrian Newey. You get that from Helmut Marko. That toxic Red Bull team. You get that from Max Verstappen, and you get that from the Red Bull strap-on fanboy. And who is all them? They're the narcissistic abusers. See who they've attracted? The Charlie Uniform November tangos in this world. They've all flocked to the Red Bull team, haven't they? It's funny that, isn't it? And the media that's, oh, well, it seems that Red Bull are throwing money in the direction of the FIA because the FIA will make every decision to favour the Red Bull team. And it feels like Andrew Benson here, well, his job is to suck the Red Bull team, isn't he? Yeah. Yeah, he's got his mouth full as old Andrew. And every other form of media can't expose the corruption in this team. And they're all of the same ilk, aren't they? All abusers. And this is just the 10%. We're the 90%. We're the decent people. And it's time for the decent people to rise up and say, fuck these bastards. Let's wipe the bastards out. Because there's no place for them. And if we want a harmonious society, we don't need these bastards. So that's what's going to happen, okay? We're going to eradicate these perpetrators from the sport of Formula One. Make it the kind of place it needs to be. Anyway, that'll do on this one. Thank you all for your time.